Good day. We are going to talk about a curriculum guide here for the unit circle memorization unit, which is a 3-lesson unit for the 9th to 12th grade mathematics classroom. It is focused on showing students what the unit circle is and how it can be used to easily solve trigonometric equations. The first thing that you will want to do in this unit with your students is to prove that the unit circle is something that gives them trigonometric values. And that can be done by showing them first a diagram which shows a circle, and inside that circle you've placed a triangle. That triangle has an x value, a y value, and its hypotenuse is the radius. And then you draw the triangle on its own to remind students that these were the things that you talked about in previous units, where sine, cosine, and tangent can be found by opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. Then you state that in a unit circle, the radius is 1, which allows you to use the rules of opposite over hypotenuse, adjacent over hypotenuse, opposite over adjacent, to prove some certain things about what they might see in a unit circle. And to go further with them, you can, right after you have proven that proof, let the students discover by using GeoGebra. And what GeoGebra does is, in this case, it's going to allow the students to be able to choose different angles, and those different angles will have different sine and cosine values. And you can see those sine and cosine values in the points. I'm going to demonstrate this very shortly here. So here you see I have my diagram and my slider, which will change the angle of the trajectory of the angle. For example, 240 degrees will have a sine value, which is the y value, of negative 0.87, which is the same thing as negative square root of 3 over 2, and a cosine value of negative 1/2. And if you're watching this video, of course, you already know this, but this is going to give students a lot of ability to play around and be able to see what's happening where this unit circle is at play here. And you might not want to give them more than 10 minutes to mess with it, but you can choose to guide them in however much capacity you'd like. I've given the conversion charts over to the left, and I've given the information of sine, cosine values. That sine is the y value and cosine is the x value, and you can choose to poke and prod a little bit more with some formative assessments that I'll mention later. In the following unit that happens the next day, or the following lesson that happens the next day, you'll show the students what a completed unit circle looks like. So this is the entire unit circle, and you can see it has the radian values, those that deal with pi, the degree values, those that deal with degrees, and then the sine and cosine values. And you'll see that I have a pencil that is placed, right in the center. So you'll teach the students about using horizontal lines for when sine values are at play. For example, this is a horizontal line that states this is when sine of x equals 1/2. The y value is equal to 1/2. And that happens at these values, 30 degrees and 150 degrees. And you can teach them through a little bit of process that they can find these. So what you'll do is you'll ask the students, find me when sine of x equals 0. Then they can place their y value, their pencil, across this image on their screen, and they'll be able to say, my pencil is crossing these values of 0 and 180 degrees. Or you can say, find when sine of x equals negative square root of 2 over 2. So then their pencil would go downward, go alongside negative root 2 over 2 as a y value. And they can see that the angles are 225 and 315. Similarly, you would do the same thing for cosine, except with a vertical pencil, because it's involving an x value. And this is really good for kinesthetic learning for students, and a lot of students may struggle with this if they don't have this image, so you want to make sure that they have the image in front of them. And even further, some students might struggle with remembering that a horizontal line is giving y values and a vertical line is giving x values. It can be confusing sometimes. So you'll ask a few questions having to do with sine, you'll ask a few questions having to do with cosine, and you'll ask a few questions that ask, when is cosine positive? When is cosine negative? This is all labeled in the unit guide that is with this video. And alongside all of these, on day 3 of the unit, there is a final assessment, which throughout the unit, there are assessments that I do intermittently throughout all of the lessons. For example, in this very first, not that sign, but in this first day where I asked the students to find sine and cosine values using this GeoGebra tool, I might have a poll and say, tell me what are the two angles where sine of x equals 1/2? What are the two angles where cosine of x is square root of 2 over 2? And this gives me a lot of information. Number one, who's paying attention, who's participating, and of course, it also gives me information as to who is having the correct answer and who needs, if the class needs some extra help in a certain question and we need to go a little bit further. Then at the end of every day, at the end of lesson 1 and lesson 2, I have an exit slip. Those exit slips can be found through Canvas, and there are 3 to 5 questions where they will answer, what is sine of x at this angle, etc., etc. Again, those exit slips can be found in the unit guide, which this video is attached to. And then one of my favorite things is to assess my students using this really visual guide. And you can see here, it's a completed unit circle with all the degree values and all the radian values. And what I want to do is, again, I want to show you what that looks like when it's attempting to be completed. So right now, I'm being asked to find 90 degrees. So I'll click on this bubble, 90 degrees. And boom, it has popped up 90 degrees. And now it moves to the next one, 330. So I look for 330 degrees. 1, 0, this is the point. 1 to the right and 0 up, which is this point over here, which is going to help students remember this point right here has a cosine value, an x value of 1, and a sine value of 0. Negative 1/2 root 3 over 2. 1/2 to the left, root 3 over 2 up. And as students go through these problems, they will find different patterns that will work for them. And I have found a lot of success with this. There are smaller chunked versions of this that I do earlier in my lessons, but this I ask students to just complete with a 100% accuracy rate and turn that in as an assignment on Canvas. And if they can do that, then they receive the points. Now, you may want to put a time limit. For example, here, it's counting the time. You might want to say, students, you need to complete this in under 3 minutes with a 100% accuracy. Or you might give an incentive. Students that do complete this in under 3 minutes with 100% accuracy will receive 10 points of extra credit. That's your prerogative on what you wish to do. But I find that this unit gives an overall look of attempting to use the kinesthetic learning with the pencils, the discovery learning and pattern recognition with noticing the decimals with the square root of 2 over 2 and decimals with square root of 3 over 2 is going to be really helpful for when they're using calculators later on. And then this gamification as an assessment tool I have found is really helpful, and they can just do it as many times as they want. It's great practice. And that is the unit circle memorization 3-lesson unit. It is short, but it is very powerful as long as you give students the time to work with these and really give it a lot of space. I hope you find some success with it.